Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's great to see everyone joining in. We will be starting the show in just a few minutes. Welcome to everyone who just joined. We are going to get started in just a couple minutes. Thanks for being here. All right, everyone. We have a packed show today, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Parallel, a multidimensional digital space hosted by the 2021 graduating classes of Parsons BFA and MFA Design and Technology program. My name is Marianne Badavi. I'm a second-year student in the MFA program, and I'm thrilled to be your Master of Ceremonies today. Parallel's 3-day live event will feature talks, film screenings, and virtual galleries of students' thesis projects. We are excited to have artists and scholars from the global community of creative technologists to engage with our work and share critical lessons learned from their own. The exhibition represents our shared experiences as a collective of students operating in a remote setting, moving forward in unity, undeterred by separations of space and time. Alongside the live event, we have a digital platform to showcase all of our work. You can visit parsons.edu/dt to dive into the creative technology projects. Today's event will be in the format of a film screening. The first session will showcase 2 groups of students, each followed by a Q&A with our guest artist. There will be a 5-minute break in between the 2 sessions. Before we start the show, here are some brief housekeeping notes. Today's event is also live streaming on our YouTube channel. It will be recorded and made available after the show on our website at parsons.edu/dt. To leave comments for today's presenters, we encourage all of you to send them over chat. For our community guidelines, we just want to remind you that this is a safe space, so we expect everyone as speakers and viewers to treat others with respect, care, and sensitivity. Before we kick off the event, I would love to welcome our Session 1 guest artist, Everest Pipkin. Everest is a drawing, game, and software artist from Central Texas who produces intimate work with large data sets, archives, and other resources for digital information. They hold a BFA from the University of Texas at Austin, an MFA from Carnegie Mellon University, and are currently based on the Gulf Coast. Everest, welcome. We are thrilled to have you here today.
I am very excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing everyone's work.
Awesome. We can't wait. So let's get started. Now I present to you the first group featuring films by Shuhao, Taylor, Kelly, and Konstantinos. Their videos, games, and media cover the themes of connection, meaning-making, and healing.
There, this is Shuhao from second year MFA DT. I am very excited to be the first one to share my thesis project today. The other side of the window. It is a work that uses the window as a narrative container for shared memory of the connection and disconnection during the Great Quarantine. In a video offering 2 different perspectives of a single window, pandemic stories are told through visualization representing the variance between the inside and the outside world.
Hello everyone, I'm Taylor Sue, second year MFA student. My thesis project is called COPE. The goal of this project is to help myself and people with PTSD to cope with their mental conditions in daily life and raise people's awareness towards PTSD at the same time. Before we start, I would like to remind you that this film may contain trigger or sensitive material, including sounds, visual elements, and strobing effect. So if you are not in the right headspace to watch this film, please feel free to leave at any moment and come back another time.
Have you ever encountered something that terrifies you significantly? And even if it's a long time past, you still feel so much discomfort that you just don't know what to do. Your brain is an association machine. It connects things together. The traumatic events might let you connect a small ripple to the huge surge. Harmless things take in irrational, scary associations. Let's imagine there is water inside you. You are a cup of water. Most of the time, the water is calm and still, but sometimes there are water drops. The storm kind of surge inside you may become terrifying. You might feel your focus is narrowing. You can't breathe. Things get blurry. Negative thoughts keep coming into your mind. Again and again, a mixture of terrifying feelings, a sense of losing control as if you're going to vanish as you face your trigger. What you've just been through is a panic attack. You couldn't imagine an optimistic future, and it kept you in the traumatic past. Your brain continues to model a hostile world, even when you're in a better one. Many think PTSD is caused by bad memories of a traumatic event. It is mostly true, but it is also caused by the expectation and fear that those things are going to happen again and again. This means that you have been victimized twice, once when the trauma happened, and twice when you were left alone with the emotional stress left from the trauma. But actually, you don't have to go anywhere trying to find peaceful water. The water is already there. What we do is surf with the water by settling down our minds. We can transform our conceptual system to make things better. Now, try to take a deep breath. Breathe to the edge of your body, where you can then notice its limits. Just focus on the rising and falling sensation of the present. Let's think about what worries you the most now. Try to draw what worries you the most, read through it, and rewrite it again with a more positive outlook. Imagine a situation you really enjoy. It could be colors, shapes, sounds, or smells. Try moving your fingers and toes to feel your body, to feel that you are in the present. Once those worrying images try to take you to a future that isn't there yet. Be gentle, relax, focus on your feeling, and bring the feeling back to life. If we change how we see the world, we can change our relationship with pain and discomfort within it. An alternative perspective of the future might solve some of the toughest challenges. Let's start with something little. Try to let the moment last longer and arise more often. Feel what you feel and know that it is you who has the ability to change your expectation.
My name is Kostas Konstantinidis, and I'm a BFA DT student. This project is called The Living Space, and The Living Space is essentially a walking type simulator game which investigates and questions the preconceived perceptual truths that we have evolved to see and hear. And the game investigates and shows players how these truths can be manipulated and altered. Thank you.
My name is Kelly Kong, and I am from BFA DT. From Birth to Present is an audiovisual installation, and it seeks to understand human experiences and interpretation from the first-person perspective through dematerializing preconceptions and archetypes. It aims to put the audience in a conscious state of how we drink in phenomena, practicing epicé, which means the suspension of judgment, and examine our subjective experiences. My research behind this project is focused on phenomenology, specifically on Husserl's idea of eidetic reduction, which is the movement from fact to essence.
Hi everyone, my name is...
All right. Thank you, Shuhao, Taylor, Costas, and Kelly. So now we will invite Everest to give feedback and ask each of you one question in regards to your work. So I will let Everest take it away.
Congratulations, everybody. What a breadth of work. And just to everyone involved, these four and the next four, congratulations on getting through what has been, I'm sure, another difficult semester. Remarkable work coming out of all of you. I guess to start, the other side of the window, right? That's first up. Watching this work, I'm thinking a lot about windows, but as well as performances through windows and voyeurism, and the long history of sort of like the relationship of the window to film, right? The idea of the camera as a sort of window, as a camera as like being so deeply involved with the piece of glass and what that does to the subject on the other side of the camera, and how that sort of recasts the window in architecture and life always. Certainly explored through lots of films, including like Rear Window, right? This is not a new idea. But it does gesture at that type of thing. It's like, I'm watching this. And also, of course, how the screen so often mirrors the window in our own daily lives now, particularly, especially this year, hello from Zoom, as we all sort of open these little window-like portals to kind of one another and to the outside world. I think the deconstruction of that figure into abstraction, into like, like physical elements that sort of embody the space of inside, while the figure is so often viewed as like a figure silhouetted in the window. The view from the inside out, right? Like the room becomes a body, like the room itself is breathing, or the room itself is sort of like moving back and forth. I think that's especially effective, right? As we have all spent this year inside and kind of letting our own figures, or at least I often feel like my own figure dissolves a little bit at the edges when I'm not being watched by others. And this has been like a banner year for that sort of deep realization and that emotion. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the process of making this work, but particularly the process of mirroring the imagery and sound here, because they are so lovingly stitched together. I assume you found some of this sound online in videos of people performing to each other through the window during kind of the early part of quarantine, which were, you know, very effective sort of little moments of humanity when we were all feeling so isolated. And also the ways in which like sound mirrors the imagery, which is like a nice mirror on the outside and inside of the window that are facing each other. Sort of like how you slotted all those component parts into the work, and those many isolated voices and identities kind of becoming united in one piece.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Everest. So I can just quickly introduce the process of my project. So basically, this project is actually starting from my daily experience during the quarantine. So, during this quarantine, I stay at my New York apartment for several months. So the only thing I can do is watch my neighbor's window, and thinking about what their life could be, the quarantine life could be, and I also. So I try to narrow down my personal experience during this quarantine, and then I also was very touched by those perform on Zoom or on the balcony. Those musicians play the music on the balcony to try to encourage and encourage their neighborhoods. So I was really impressed by those artists try to connect the world together, even in such isolated age. So I have collected all those story. I think that's touched me, and I try to using some visual form to visualize those complicated emotions. And I also download, or I also use some real audio come from the internet, that to as my background sound to enhance the immersive experience. So the reason why I use the window as my main container in my project is I think, like I said, the daily behavior of my life is watching the window, and I find the window do contain some interesting meaning and metaphor during this period. Like it's in general, the window just like a tunnel to connect to separate world, like the outside and the inside world. However, in the quarantine time, the window that can contain more meaning, that could be a boundary between multiple states, like the boundary between the safety or not safe, unsafety, and the boundary between like the isolate, or the boundary between the disconnection or connection, and something like that. So when we open the window, we are connect with the outside world. However, we are isolated in this room, so the window gradually become like the only tunnel that we can connect with the outside world. So I'm using the window as the metaphor to like as a sign that we can connect with the outside world. Yeah, so this is my general idea of how I make this project. I don't know whether I answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, and congratulations. I hope you feel very proud.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I know we're moving at a bit of a clip. Is this about the right time length for question, or? Yeah, this is good. Okay. Let's move on to Cope then. This is such an interesting animation because it's somewhere between an abstract film that really leans into geometry and shapes and the history of abstraction. It almost feels like an abstract painting from like the turn of the 20th century. Like it's playing with this long history of the way that, you know, shapes move inside of those spaces, as well as kind of like existing. It almost has it's like playing with like an Instagram aesthetic color palette. Like it's kind of pulling from all of these spaces. It feels a little like a meditation app, but also like almost a research illustration. I'm imagining another world where maybe like psychology white papers have explainer videos instead of an abstract, you know, at the top. And this feels almost like that type of thing. I read in the project description that you worked with Adam Brown and the Trauma and Global Mental Health Lab for the research component of this video. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit about the process of making it and when it went into it, but also particularly about the process of working with medical and health labs through the lens of design, through the lens of animation, because that's not a process that I've ever engaged in. And I think that sort of background process that goes into work like this is super fascinating.
Yeah, so it starts last year that I got interested in mental health, and then I choose a class of Adam's global mental health class, and then I had an interview with him last semester, and then we talked about art therapy and PTSD, and because he's strength is in the PTSD and trauma area, so we kind of, I think it kind of become, at the beginning I made this story that is more specific, but then I kind of realized it because there are a lot of things can be triggered to anyone, and I don't want to trigger anyone, so I kind of step it back a bit and make everything more geometry and abstract to kind of shape it more generally. That's kind of why this story doesn't give it's more abstract. It doesn't tell a specific story. And I think, yeah, I do play a lot with the color. It's because I kind of want to create this like warm tone, but a little bit fantasy, so people can kind of dream in. And I think it's kind of like a process of art therapy, that if you are feeling something now, and what would it look like if you draw out what you feel, kind of like this process. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope you feel stoked about this work. It must have been no small amount of labor, both the quality of the animation, which is so clean and so considered, as well as the research component that went into this. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about the living space. So I have my own histories with walking simulators. It's certainly been a part of my aesthetic practice, as well as kind of like a conceptual framework that has surrounded games and game making in my life. And I am including some childhood experiences with LSD Dream Emulator, which have probably stuck with me in influential ways. And I'm not sure if that work was going into this, but there's certainly parallels there between that old PlayStation game and sort of contemporary walking simulators that are interested in extrasensory human experience. But I'm always interested in seeing new takes on the walking sim, especially ones that dispense with the conventions of moving around a space like a human body would sort of move by default, which is often the first approach into a walking sim, right? Because you get your little like player character and get the camera inside and they walk around and, you know, they got their walk animations and little footstep sounds, which is a very strange default for digital space, because of course that is not how many humans move through the world, first off. So like, why do we reconstruct that particular genre of walking immediately in digital space? But secondly, because digital spaces are fully malleable, right? There's nothing that requires them to look or act or feel like physical space whatsoever. So I'm always, you know, cameras don't need to be an orthographic, right? We don't need to have the same field of view that we have in our eyes, right? Like there's all sorts of other ways that you can deal with the geography of digital space, which is really compelling to me. So watching this video, watching a camera that is profoundly non-human, that is interested in other kind of like field of views, that zooms in and out of like field of view, or that like deforms the images around the sort of lens of the camera. It builds atypical sensory experiences and non-stable digital spaces that kind of like allow themselves to be liquid, to like reconfigure themselves around the player character. All of this is really interesting to me. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you learned using kind of atypical cameras, field of view, movement, audio, and other tricks of kind of like digital space, of malleable digital space to evoke particular feelings or moods or experiential sort of like visions and ideas.
Well, to begin with, conceptually, I wanted to create this space that sort of, like you said, has this fluidity and reactiveness to the player walking through it and experiencing it. And conceptually, it was more of, I wanted to create an immersive experience that's similar to how one would pass through a gallery space, for example, like being physically there and having projections around you. And then it expanded further from that to be this experience that's really individual. So what you saw in the video was were multiple examples of what you could do in the space, depending on how interested you are to explore different views within it. Because as I was building it, I worked a lot with lighting and visual effects, as you saw in the video, which really changed depending on the camera's position. So all the visual effects were really centered around where the camera turns and how close it is to a particular surface. So depending on what you do in the space, you can have different experience, like the segment of the video where the camera looks up to the ceiling and sort of turns around. If you choose to turn your head, which is the camera, to the left and then back to the right in a circular motion, then it would create different visual effects than if somebody were to just look up and then down and continue. So having made it in Unity, I used a lot of visual effects through post-processing that I learned can really allow you to manipulate the space as well as how the camera works to create really unique experiences for everyone, versus using more standardized lighting that's more stationary. So I learned that you could play with lighting a lot atmospherically instead of as singular and stationary objects. So applying that and a lot of just effects on the camera, like hazes, are very prevalent in this game. And another thing that you may not see in the video, because you would have to actually play it, would be that I give the player the option to clear their vision, which by pressing a button, you can remove the haze that surrounds the area and have your view be more crystal clear. But even as you're progressing through the space with clear vision, it starts to fog up again. And it depends how you want to experience the game itself, because when it's more hazy, the lighting is completely different than if you were to have it clear. So it depends on, do you want to go through this space and have it sort of wrap around you and engulf you, or do you want to disperse this surrounding cloud-like effect and experience it more directly and more clearly? So yeah, through this experience, I learned a lot about giving players freedom to choose how they experience the space, and also stepping into how to give individual experience versus the more goal-oriented universal experience that a lot of games have traditionally, where they guide you towards a specific goal. In this game, I tried to make it as free as possible to do whatever you want and spend how long you want in each section of the space.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had not considered the possibility of like allowing a player character to configure, you know, the veils over their own vision. That's a really fascinating place to sort of come down on that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I see it's up on itch.io, so I hope everybody gets a chance to play it. And then finally for this section, we've got From Birth to Present, which more than any of the other work that we've seen so far, this really felt to me like a poem. I mean, it's like literally you have a poem on the screen, but also the way in which the text and sound and images kind of unfold over time also feel very poetic. Gesturing at like a poetic structure that unfolds slowly, building on itself, and then looping, kind of like phrases and stanzas build upon like the last little block of meaning, even as it deconstructs itself via subject, right? Even as the poem and the imagery sort of becomes broader and broader and broader until the body dematerializes out of the frame entirely. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit about the act of adapting a poem to a video format, or if you reject the poetic read, which is totally fair, how you view the piece instead. If you're like, no, it isn't a poem, it's totally this.
Yeah, so I actually, like, what made me want to create this was because throughout the month of November, I wrote a lot of poetry, and it was quite ontological. And it was something that I couldn't really put into words. So I began my research in phenomenology. And what really interested me was like Husserl's idea, and he kind of distinguishes it between perception and intuition. So perception is that you're conscious that you're observing the object, and intuition is almost like your experience in the object. So I thought there was like no way to almost, because like if I were to tell this idea in a very direct way, I would just show my entire process throughout my thesis year. But I decided that there's no instruction manual, and that's why I actually wanted to create it from a more poetic place. Yeah.
I know we are at 6:45. Should we move on to the next block, or are we? Yeah. Okay. Congratulations, everybody. I am so impressed to see these 4 projects. I'm really excited to see the next 4. Great job. Congratulations on your semester.
Thanks so much, Everest. Sorry, I think I am just having an internet connectivity issue, so hopefully you guys can hear me. So let's move on to group 2. For this group, we have Vic, Jackson, Elijah, and Irene. These projects use technology to propose new ways of learning and to depict dystopian techno-futures.
My name is Vic Yuan, and I'm a BFA student. My project is called Crescendo, an interactive mobile app used to help prospective music students learn guitar by implementing practicing habits into their daily routine. Through this documentary-style video, I would like to take you through my process. Enjoy. Music is transcendent. It exists in almost every aspect of society. When our ears hear that one song in that one store, we have an emotional reaction to it, whether it's joy, laughter, annoyance, or nostalgia. The start of this thesis project was inspired by my love for music, and specifically for my love for guitar. I've personally been playing guitar since I was 8 years old, and it is something I consider very pivotal to my overall development as a person. Music has had the same positive effect on a wide range of people. It impacts lives and brings people of various walks of life together. Research has shown that listening to music can reduce anxiety, blood pressure, as well as improve sleep quality, mood, and memory. And while learning an instrument as a child provides a lot of lifelong benefits to the brain, research shows that even taking music lessons in your 60s or older can boost your brain's health as well as reduce loss of memory and cognitive function. In short, it's never too late to start learning. But if this was common knowledge, then everyone in the world would be going out of their way to pick up an instrument, which is obviously not the case. So I asked, why is that? In my journey to explore this, I asked questions like, what key factors prevent people who are interested in guitar from learning it? What are their most difficult touch points? And how can technology be used to enhance this part of our music education? I interviewed a couple professors in DT and in Mannes School of Music, and did 2 different quantitative research methods with a pool of respondents who all said they were beginner guitar players and or were interested in learning guitar. I had a couple people do a day in the life so I could better understand the lives of my target demographic, and I also conducted a card sort study with about 12 people to see how different people would approach learning music. The majority of people prioritized enjoyment, comprehension, and practice. In follow-up conversations, a lot of them also had similar responses in regards to finding time to practice and certain physical constraints there are to playing guitar. So through this research, I found that the main problems were less about the instrument itself being difficult to learn, but rather it was being able to stay motivated and build a consistent habit to keep practicing. Everyone has busy lives. It's hard to find time to practice or figure out a routine. It would be more motivating if there was help, but getting access to one-on-one learning can be expensive, and not everyone can afford private tutoring or know where to access information. Which leads me to my solution, Crescendo. Crescendo is an interactive mobile platform designed to help prospective guitar students implement practicing habits into their daily routines. Through missions and challenges, the user experience not only playfully presents information, but it further mimics a physical guitar fret in order for users to obtain muscle memory while they're away from their instrument. First, you sign up or sign in. You will be led to a main menu where you can view a short summary of your progress, as well as featured missions and access to other features within the app. The MVP for this app is the missions, and these missions are specifically designed to be played while users are doing their regular daily tasks. You can do these missions while you're waiting for coffee or eating breakfast, or you can do it while you're outside or on your way to school. Since guitar is also such a physical object, I wanted to be able to replicate it in the most effective way possible. So in order to get through missions, the user will be prompted to play their phone as an actual guitar, and follow the buttons to mimic the chords and techniques that they're learning. This ensures that they are not only absorbing information mentally, but also gaining muscle memory through the physical interaction. The more missions you do, the more you level up and unlock more tools, which gives the users incentive to keep practicing and increase their scores. Furthermore, when you finish exercises or learn chords within a mission, you can re-access these techniques through your menu portal in case you need to refer back to a lesson. Overall, I'm hoping this is a platform that can really reach people and be beneficial. Playing music can not only be therapeutic, but it also brings a community of people together. Going forward, I would like to implement a collaborative feature that brings like-minded students to grow together. But for now, I'm hoping this app can at least give single users the accessibility to learn no matter what stage of learning they're in. That they'll gain the confidence to keep playing and potentially reach out to more people in this community. Crescendo, the word itself, is a musical term in sheet music which means to grow louder. And in this case, I wanted to represent the user's consistent growing improvement in music. This is the outcome I hope the platform can bring. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Jackson. This video recorded for Final Symposium. My project name is Lost and Found Immersive Storytelling. This is a prevision of Future Children Immersive Storytelling book. From my research, I discovered the importance of children's book for children's growth. However, today with advanced technology, children's books has lost their previously competitiveness. It is replaced by the technology revolution brought by the big screen. The ultimate mission of my project is to feed children's book to big screen and increase the fun and the interactive experience of children in reading. Here is the video.
Hello everyone, I'm Elijah Xia. The short film is speculative and immersive storytelling with narrative that envisages its participants experiencing a totalitarian society driven by artificial intelligence. In this dystopian world, AI is created and misused by the authoritarian party in order to rule the public, persecute individuality, and violate freedom and conduct mass surveillance.
Artificial intelligence police are watching you. Order is sacred. Civilians must be obedient. Sedition will be punished. Sin is shameful. You will be judged and sentenced. Surrender is the secret of survival. You have disrupted the social order and have disregarded the public interest. Did you commit this crime?
Who are you?
Answer my questions. Do you know why you have been arrested?
I don't know.
Can you explain these photos?
She is my love.
She is not your love. She was a rebel. We have converted her. We have reshaped her. Now you too have rebelled. This is not permitted. Surveillance. Mass surveillance. Ubiquitous mass surveillance. There is nowhere to escape.
Let me go home.
Imprison him. We do not destroy you, the heretic, because you resist us. Instead, we limit your freedom and your individuality. You will not leave this prison until you are hollow, until everything will be dead inside you, until you forget your love. We capture your inner mind. We perfect your brain. We make you one of us. The most terrifying thing is that fear is hidden like an iceberg. Only 1/10 of it is above the surface, but 9/10 lie underwater. All other thoughts in your mind no longer exist. You are one of us. It is time for you to go home.
Hi everyone, I'm Irene. My thesis project, Her Room, is a text-based storytelling game experience about a cyber romance story happening in a virtual world. It simulates the process of the two protagonists falling in love with each other from virtual world to real life in the transmedia narrative methods. The whole story inspired by an episode of Black Mirror, Central Peril. It also adopts the protagonists' names, Yorkie and Kelly. The player would play the role of Yorkie and explore this virtual world. The intro of the whole game starts with a brochure which is sent by the virtual service company to promote Bradford, this virtual town. It gives the player a brief sense of the virtual world settings as well as the introduction of the whole game experience. It is also in a promotion advertising language. The QR code on the final page would lead the player to the web page of the game. There would be 3 game scenes which are presented in 3 different dimensions in this game world, which is from 1D to 2D to 3D. The game starts with a chatting interface. At the beginning of the story, Yorkie, which is the player here, got a free trail to Bradford. She met Kelly by the matching system here. In this scene, the player could only get to know Kelly by text. It simulates the first stage of their relationship here in Bradford. The whole world is a simulated place where the elderly can visit and the deceased can live. People could upload their consciousness over here after they die, and they would live in their younger bodies. As their relationship develops, Kelly shares her social media page with Yorkie. The game scene transfers from a texting scene to a 2D pixel computer interface, where the player could go through Kelly's social media as well as chatting with Kelly's friends. At the end of the 2D scene, Kelly suddenly disappears. It made Yorkie follows her address in Bradford and try to figure out everything over there. This is how the walking simulator scene as well as the 3D scene starts. Here come Kelly's rooms in Bradford. Kelly is missing. The player needs to find out all the clues in every room about Kelly in order to find out the truth and unlock next level. In this scene, every room has 2 to 4 objects which could be triggered and pop up the related clues. It requires the player to collect all the clues in this room to unlock the next room. I made all her rooms in different visual styles to present Kelly different layers of personalities. In this room, I'm trying to make Kelly as a round character. Player could always find something new about Kelly by talking with her friends, going through her rooms, and so on. After completing the missions and filling the loading bar, a key of the real world would appear and transfer your key into Kelly's room in real life. Here is a hospital room where Kelly stayed every day in the real world. It turns out that Kelly was a late-stage cancer patient, and she and Yorkie are both over 80 years old in real life. It is also here that the player would find out that Kelly was already passed away and uploaded her consciousness to Bradford. At the end of the story, the player is going to face the decision of whether to upload Yorkie's consciousness to Bradford with Kelly after Yorkie died. The decision will depend on players' own impressions about Kelly. This transmedia narrative method is designed to simulate 2 people first met each other online and could only get to know each other by chatting. At this stage, all the impressions about each other are only based on the text. When it comes to the social media and the conversations between player and Kelly's friends, it gave the complexity to Kelly, this character. And Yorkie's feelings towards Kelly keeps changing according to what she observed either from Kelly's social media or her friend or their own chatting. When Yorkie finally explored Kelly's space, she will find out what kind of person Kelly really is by herself. The subtle change of Yorkie's impressions about Kelly when she experiences all these different medias manifests the online interpersonal communication today. Finally, I would like to express my truly gratitude to all the people who helped me with my thesis project. Special thanks to Professor Barbara Morris, Professor John Roach, and Professor John Sharp. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video.
Thank you, Vic, Jackson, Elijah, and Irene. So now we will invite Everest to give feedback again and ask each of you one question in regards to your work. Everest?
Great. Congratulations, everybody. We'll start with Crescendo. First off, I just wanted to shout out your documentary video skills. This was just a joy to watch from a production value standpoint, as well as like an audio experience. Well done on that front. As a pitch document, like if you are wanting to pitch this, you have it. Congrats. But as well as all the remarkable research that clearly went into this project. I'm always interested to see designers who really do their user experience research on the front end, and seeing that reflected in the video itself. Super fascinating. I spent a little time playing around on the Figma mockup that was linked through the website. And although I am a very bad guitar player myself, so maybe I'm the target audience, but I was impressed with how quickly I was able to kind of map the idea of a guitar neck onto a screen. It really surprised me, but how quickly I was sort of able to pick that up. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the design process that led you there to that idea of using the phone as a guitar neck. I was of course reminded of things like Rock Band, but this feels more real. The ratio is right. You know, you hold a phone that way and it's like, oh yes, I can believe that. But it's not actually something I've ever seen anybody do. So I was wondering, like, what got you here, and if you had anything else that you wanted to add to what was already a really thorough and clear explanation video, but just in case there was anything you wanted to throw in back there too.
Yeah, thank you for all the feedback. Definitely during like my first few iterations of the app, there was a lot less touch interaction. It was more kind of like informative based. But then after kind of a bunch of user testing and kind of feedback from my lovely professors,
I did realize that what if just presenting the information itself probably wasn't enough, and probably wasn't enough to separate myself from, of course, like all the other learning apps out there, like Duolingo, where it kind of presents it front hand. And then since because guitar is like such a physical instrument, I didn't think it would be very like effective if you were only kind of absorbing that information cognitively, because like a lot of guitar comes from like your muscle memory and like being able to like physically remember like the certain chords and techniques. And yeah, since I didn't see anyone else really like playing it as a guitar, I thought like, why not give it a shot? And also because I think in the beginning of this project, I was also considering making like kind of just building an instrument as well. But then for the accessibility purpose, I decided to make a mobile app. And then just after some more user testing, I think it actually was pretty successful, and a lot of people found joy of being able to play the phone just as a guitar, and also makes it more accessible to people who don't necessarily own an instrument. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. I actually truly think you've hit on something here. It has like a joy of kind of a rhythm game, but with a functional end goal, which is like, oh yeah, that is a chord. Like my hand remembers how to do this. And I hope it's something that you continue to pursue.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's move on to Lost and Found. So I was thinking a lot while I was watching this about mini games and Mario Party and party games and charades, the Wii, right? Like, which is probably dating me, my own sort of like childhood experiences with digital objects that have become tied to the physical world, which are becoming tied to the physical world more and more the longer things go. I'm sure kids today, as you well know, right, talking about sort of storybooks and illustration storybooks and digital storybooks, have a different relationship to stories and books than I certainly did. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit about your ideal audience, right? Like who these kids are, how this enters their life, and especially maybe how it might form memories for them, how they might remember it later. Because I have so many memories of childhood books and games and playtimes and imagination that really flow into one another in my mind, right? Where it's like, I can't quite separate that story of like rowing a boat from the song about rowing a boat, from the game about rowing a boat, to that dream I had about rowing a boat, and where maybe this vision kind of like rests for you.
All right, I would start from my inspiration, my little niece. She's like 4 years old when I designed this project. Cause I spend a lot of time play with her. So every time she would ask me to play a role in her story and play with her. So that's kind of my inspiration. And my target user are from 4 to 6 year old kids, because I think this is the time for the children grows really fast, and they would have the desire to play with outside and play with their stories. And yeah, I think for the future, I would, because the philosophy fund is just a version of example of interactive stories, and in the future, I hope there's a library for this immersive story book library for them to pick up which story they want to play with. So yeah, I think that's was my future goal, and I don't know if I answer your question, but that's what my thoughts.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think even having a child in or near your life who you can sort of like interact with, who you can see playing with things, has got to be an inspiration in and of itself. And I'm excited to see you designing for like, yeah, a particular audience. I think it shows. Okay. Congrats.
Thanks.
Let's talk about underwater. So watching this, it really reminded me of machinima animations, that idea of like real-time graphics animations that were shot in video games. Obviously machinima is still being made, but this is a genre that is maybe not as present now because, of course, 3D animation takes so much, or it doesn't take less processing power. Computers are capable of processing animations at a higher rate. So there's less incentive to, go into Second Life or go into like a space where you can kind of pose characters and like animate the camera and take films that way. So there was like a part of me that was like, oh, I'm so nostalgic about this aesthetic, about these sort of like avatars that are like in space and the camera that moves around them as like things are animated and filmed out. I also saw in your bio that you're a writer. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the process of adapting a piece of your writing. I assume this is a piece of your writing to an illustrated format, right? Like a format that has visuals, and what it was like working with your own script, as well as maybe some of the influences of the work. It seems like it has lots of echoes and like, science fiction from 1984 to Scanner Darkly to Clockwork Orange, but probably many more that I also am like, not even aware of. And maybe a little bit about like the software and the assets you used in shooting or programming this piece.
Yes, so my process at the very beginning, when I started working on this project, I saw Elon Musk has displayed his brand interface. I see the comments on the website, some people saying that it's a very good technology, but some people are worried about, if our mind has been controlled. So I was just thinking about what's the dark side of our technology today. So my first concept is like, I don't want to stop the technology development because it's unnecessary, but as a designer or a product user, I think we should consider about the dark side when we design or using technologies. So as you have mentioned, I have some written background about creating story, but it's when I'm doing this project, I have not like present my project on the screen. So at the very beginning, I started like using the filmmaking or digital storytelling strategy. I write the script and drawing the storyboard. But at the very beginning, it's always like iterated. Since building a very good story is not as easy, especially it will be showing on the screen. And then after my and at the very beginning, the concept is very large because there are a lot of digital dilemmas in our day, like data privacy or such kind of things. So my professor always like, oh, you have very large scope. You need to shoot. I really need to narrow it down. So after those process, I have been choose my topic like totalitarianism, society driven by AI. I know it's only one scenario in our daily life. Our technology has been misused or abused. So then I will start my world building. So my process basically is and watch a lot of presidents, and my professors always gave me a lot of good reference, like the Matrix, the 1984, one of my favorite books, and my influenced president. And then after my world building, I start getting my production. But at the very beginning, I want to use Cinema 4D to do the 3D models, but my computer is not that powerful. So actually, my original concept is use first person, and it does quite make sense because some audience say they don't understand my original version of story. So I design the character using assets in the Unity. So using Unity as a real-time rendering to tell my story and using the camera, and then got the rough cut of my video, and then I got my sound. I use sound like underwater sound to bubble sound to represent my world because as I said in the voiceover, like the terrifying thing is not just on the surface. Sometimes it's hidden under the water. So it's the metaphor in my story. Yeah. So basically how is my process. Yeah. And maybe in the future, I will still keep working on to make my world more make sense and the sound and the animations more fluent. Yeah. Hope it answers your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations on the work. Nice to see Unity used as a real-time animation engine. Actually, now that you mentioned that, I'm like, of course, that is the next evolution of that type of thing. All right, I think on to the last one for me, which is her room, which is another piece that has sort of been produced inside of video game engines. In particular, I was interested in you sort of watching you stitch this variety of worlds made in different tools together, each with like a distinct aesthetic style, starting with the brochure, which is flat, as you talked about, 1D, into Bitsy, the 2D game engine, and then finally the 3D environment. Although all of them point back to ideas of the UI, of being inside of digital space, of having like an interaction with the screen that allows you to kind of like click buttons and have conversations and close and move around windows, which I thought was like super interesting. Even the brochure is sort of a physical UI-like object, even though it's made of paper. It reminded me a little bit of like when a cartoon has a cartoon in it, right? Like when you're watching a cartoon and there's a television and a cartoon is playing, and the cartoon on the TV in the cartoon has to be even more cartoon-like to demonstrate that it is in fact a cartoon, which is a little bit what it felt like being inside of Bitsy, inside of another 3D world. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about the feeling and the process of nesting all of these distinct digital spaces together, and making a film inside of those tools, or an interactive work inside of those tools that sort of respond to each other, and how that how it lets you kind of move farther and farther into the three-dimensional, and how that casts the 2D world into this other space, if that makes sense.
Thank you for your question, Alvarez. The process of the whole game simulates the two people first met online and falling in love with each other, and in the game, sorry, I need to. Sorry, I was too nervous. Can I start again?
Of course, you can start again. Yeah.
The process of the whole game simulates two people first met each other online and falling in love with each other. It manifests the phenomena in real life when, especially these days during quarantine, a lot of people get more chances to have online social or making new friends online. And at the first stage, without knowing the profile photo, it's very you can only get to know each other by text. So that's why I put a chatting interface as my first thing, which manifests the first stage of two people met online. And then when it goes by, you kind of getting familiar with each other, and you begin to share, let's say, Instagram or other social media pages, or even your social network with another person, and the whole image of another person just become more vivid, and because you know what kind of person or how that person looks like, and what kind of how that person reacts with to friends. And this is how I put the social media as well as the conversations with friends as the second thing. And finally, we got a chance to meet in person, despite what in this case, despite what Yorkie observed from the social media and heard what other comments about Callie, she got a chance to know what kind of person Callie really is by herself, because she met her in person. She's not and the impressions about towards Yorkie's impressions towards Callie could possibly continue changing during the whole process according to the changes of social media as well as the communicative platforms. And yes, this is what I want to address in this project. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, everybody. I think that's it for our time, but it's been a real delight to be able to join you and see some of what you've been working on. I'm very excited to watch all of it be in the world, see other people interact with it. Those of you that are still like, I'm going to keep working on the project, like good luck to you with that. Those of you that are moving on to other things, good luck to those, and congratulations.
Thanks so much, Everest, for those questions, and the students for your responses. So as Everest just said, this marks the end of our first session. Everest, we thank you so much for your time and being here at our thesis showcase. Feel free to stick around and watch the rest of the showcase. We will be taking a quick 2-minute break. So we will see you back here at 7:24, 7:25 for the second session. Thank you. All righty, welcome back, everyone, from your 2-minute break. Before we start the second session, if you are just joining us, please review the housekeeping notes in the chat. This session will be the same format where we will showcase 2 groups of students, each followed by a Q&A with our guest artist. So I want to welcome our next guest artist, Yo-Yo Lin. Yo-Yo Lin is a Taiwanese-American interdisciplinary media artist who explores the possibilities of human connection and embodiment in the context of emerging technologies. Her work often examines human perception as a vehicle for self-knowledge and community growth. Most recently an art resident at IBEAM, Yo-Yo is researching and developing methodologies in reclaiming and processing chronic health trauma. She is currently developing a digital and physical toolkit that seeks to be an expressive resource and self-sustainable living archive of chronically ill and disabled body minds. Yo-Yo, we are thrilled to have you join us today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. We can't wait. So let's present the first group of this session, featuring films by Terry, Jiangnan, Benny, and Yichun. These films use powerful visuals and expressions to speculate on alternate realities and ideas born from the pandemic.
Hello, I am Terry Ayana Wright, and I am sharing a short dance film called Inside Out. As the dancer in front of the camera, as well as the director, choreographer, and editor, my goal is to produce a self-portrait in motion, a film reflecting my Afrocentric, Southern, Black heritage, and my ability to speak through movement, has come to life. As I continue exploring what it means to tell stories through the mediums of dance, performance, and visual effects, I have a question or two for you. What if fairy godmothers were real? What if they came to us in times of need as guides to get us through? What if the fairy godmother was an ancestor? Actually, an anthropomorphized element of our subconscious. What if she is our very own direct line of communication to God herself? From the inside out.
Hi everyone, I'm Jiangnan Ho from MFADT. This is my thesis project, The Beaks. It's a short film that employs interactions with handmade masks to both reflect and intervene in moments of broken communication. The masks and the people who activate them serve as symbols for the inevitability of misunderstanding, especially in the time of the pandemic, and the creative potential underlying these points of confusion.
Hi, my name is Benny Zhang. Today, let me introduce my thesis project, the Project Newman. The term Newman means the spirit or divine power presiding over a thing or place. To me, it also means nature plus human. It is a speculative proposal for the future with nature-inspired design. This project uses 3D renderings and generative strategies to reveal the intricacies of plant phenotypes. I intend to create a parallel nature world in the virtual space, offering viewers a feeling of the presence of beauty that is aligned with the challenging reality of the Anthropocene's effect on natural environment.
My name is Yichan Wang. My thesis project is an animated short film titled The Wanderer. In this film, people can dance while they are dreaming. The dream dance arises from the tensions of everyday life. Through one of these dreams, the wanderer explores what dance can break free of mundanity's confines.
Thank you so much, Terry, Jiangnan, Benny, and Yichan. Now we will invite Yo-Yo to give feedback and ask each of you one question in regards to your work. Yo-Yo, take it away.
Oh my goodness. Ah, you guys, that was beautiful. Yeah, wow. Terry, I have so many questions. I'm just like, okay, let's begin. Like, are we thinking like, I'm gonna start with touch. I just want to like note just like how you kind of like went through that choreography in moments, and it's both you and there's like moments of like you touching yourself, and like I'm like thinking through about like this character that you were talking about, the godmother figure, and how she's kind of there and like suddenly you're able to dance with her, and like in those moments when you're able to kind of also be held by her, and like what was the intention that you were holding in those moments when you were being like touched or touching the godmother in those movements? Yeah.
I think I wanted it to feel close to the character, but also close to the audience. Like it's even though technically this character is like something that you can't actually see, it's supposed to represent something you can't actually see. It's still there in a tangible way. So it kind of pierces you, and I think I got that effect, and I'm excited if I did. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to illustrate.
And that moment when you like touched her face and like there was like a transformation there, like it seemed like you were growing older in that moment, or someone was growing older in that moment.
Yeah, I wanted her to be touched specifically here, like sort of her third eye in a way, like, and the reason why she looks older is because playing with the idea that it's also an ancestor, so someone that has come before, like that you're related to. So she looks like you, she's a part of you, but she has wisdom, she has age on her. So that's why she kind of transforms a little bit. I think if I had more time, I would have kept playing with that effect later on. But at some point you just gotta say, all right, turn it in. The presentation's on Sunday, so
Totally. Oh my God. That was absolutely stunning. So thank you so much for sharing that. And
thank you.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to have been here to witness that piece. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I also wanted to talk through Janyan work. Yeah. Oh my goodness. The mask that you were making, like I noticed the different materials that you were using. Like, was there any specific decisions behind like what materials you use? Like I noticed the one that had the balloon animals, specifically the ones that kind of look like glass shards. Yeah, like what was that process behind figuring out which materials to use?
Yeah, actually, like there are 4 of them. Actually, I've made like more like 8 to 10 of them as prototypes before, and I selected for the final film. And each of them they have their own names, but it's not revealed in the film. Like for example, the very long and pointy one is called Thrust, and it's made of like reflective, like silvery material. And the concept behind that is like it's a symbol of distance, like distrust, like those moments when you don't trust each other during the communication. And like the balloon one it's twisted, so the name is Twist, and it's like a symbol of entanglement in our relationships, and that's never gonna go away in our relationships and communication. So yeah, like all the materials are like chosen intentionally, and they have their concepts behind them.
And did you I noticed that you had like a very specific way of performing with each piece. Like, was there like a specific persona that you
totally
with each mask?
The mask and the costume, the movements, and also the environment, like the tunnel they're walking through. They're all
and that was all like 3D animated. Wow. That was amazing. Yeah, the compositing that you did with that too is just like so very smooth and nuanced, and had each had like its own kind of ambiance and its own kind of language, which I really appreciated. And then there was also kind of like a nice kind of like underground rave smoky vibe towards the end when like all of them were together. That was just like what I was thinking through when they were all kind of together in that one space, and like seeing them all kind of like be in that realm of like togetherness was so beautiful. Thank you so much. Benny, I am stunned at this work that you made. It is gorgeous.
Thank you.
I also wanted to ask more about, like what were your thoughts behind creating these kind of like speculative plant organic like objects essentially, right? What was that desire coming from, and also like in what ways do you imagine these plants kind of coexisting with human beings?
So my impetus behind this is all about like my interest in visual art, and like nature is my biggest inspiration. I'm always wondering who designed nature, what's the geometry of nature. So these become my first impetus, and I use Houdini as my main tool. So the nature of the procedural modeling and using algorithm to reappear the nature beauty in the digital space. That is a very interesting theme for me in the visual art. And also, like I hope to build all these speculative plans to reflect on the environment, like that as the consequences of human activity, like how human can make some influence on the creation of natural objects. And that's what I want to create. Was that answering your questions?
Yeah, totally.
Thank you.
Yeah. The one that I remember most is like the one that's like metal material based.
Yeah.
And so like how do you imagine that existing within the year, was it like 2100?
Yeah, like I imagine that one can like sense the acid rain and it start glowing and then generate some minerals or crystal. So like my imagination of that species. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Yichan, wow. I also have so many questions for this one because I am also doing different kinds of dance and movement and animation work. And yeah, I'm thinking through, like all the different choices you made with like the model of the figure, the character itself, the way that the character moves, and the way that, it kind of like had its own kind of language when it was moving through like I guess like the dreamscape and then like into the tropical dreamscape. What was your thought process behind designing these worlds and this character specifically?
Yeah. So in making this film, I think for me, the dream world in this film is a world that exists in contrast with the awakened film. And I think the inspiration came from during quarantine. I think one becomes very aware of what it feels to be not moving very much at all. So I think the awakening world came from that feeling of being the one place doing one thing and stuff. And I think the dream world is the contrast of like feeling vibrant and having the liberty and license to wander and roam around. So the rainforest, which is also very vibrant, is also sprout from that.
Yeah, could you speak more specifically about the character design too? I noticed that the arms and limbs were like very flowy. Like, was that something that you decided, and then was that also something that you implemented like motion capture with, or was that all just like frame by frame kind of animated in software?
Oh no, it's not frame by frame. It's motion capture. Terry was the dancer who did the motion capture.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah. I was like, this looks familiar, but I also didn't know why. So I'm like really glad that like I saw Terry's movement first and then I saw it in the character, and yeah, wow, that's so interesting.
Yeah, the longer limbs and less accentuated torso is intentional. My choreographer Oriana Captain, and I discussed the idea for this movement to be about mostly spinning, turning, lost and wandering. So there's a lot of like limb movement and not so much of torso movement. So I thought the longer limbs and less obvious torso would be a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I noticed like a lot of very specific choices in movement with all of your works, like thinking through, like how you were creating presence within each of these characters that you were embodying. And I have a very, like a very interesting thought about just thinking through like Terry's movement piece, kind of how it moves through this time, this like timescape where there is this like connection with an ancestor, and there's this motion that's like moving us through the past and the future, or the present, or even just like apprehension of the future, you know? And then there also is so much movement within the work with the masks, thinking through how the masks themselves bring on a certain kind of being and sense of being, and a different sense of moving through the world with each mask. And I also think through like in times of COVID, like in the beginning when there was like so many people using so many different kinds of materials for masks, and how there was like so much like tension there about like who is using what materials for what masks, and like access to masks in the very beginning. And how, like that kind of pulls me back to that kind of like early COVID time as well. And also just like the very, very like far away future of 2100 is just like so unfathomable to me, but there's also these beautiful imaginations that Benny has created. And then there's also just this dreamscape that's just an alternate universe that Yichan has developed and so beautifully guided us through with movement. So I'm very much, so thankful for you guys sharing the work, and so inspired, to be honest. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Yo-Yo, for those questions and feedback, and to the students for your responses. So for our last group of the evening, we have Jackie, Kenneth, and Bai Chao. These three artists use film and mixed media to examine culture and memory from both a critical and personal lens.
Hi, I'm Jackie Liu from MFADT, and here is my thesis work. Wandering in different places with just a suitcase for so many years, I've always done that, except
I think you're just sharing the wrong screen. We'll just run it back.
Hi, I'm Jackie Liu from MFADT, and here is my thesis work. Wandering in different places with just a suitcase for so many years, I've always believed that, except for the present me and my memories, I've never owned anything else. So I made an AR pop-up book for myself, and those who roam around the universe and never think about when or where they will stop. My thesis project is called Conversation with Myself, which I regard as a self-reflection, a summary, and an interpretation of my past experience. This AR pop-up book shows the process of the reconciliation between me and my karma from the perspective of time. Those connections between the reinterpreted memories will be presented in the linear pop-up book with non-linear AR storytelling technology. When I was 4 years old, I often stayed at home alone, played with my toys while watching television. My favorite show was called Art Attack, where the host had millions of great ideas about crafting and making beautiful things. At that time, my biggest wish was someday in the future I could make something interesting like he did. 20 years later, I think my dreams came true. Now, I'm doing the same cool stuff in Parsons Design School like the host in Art Attack used to do. I used to own a fish whose dream was jumping out of the tank and see the outside bigger world. Actually, it succeeded one day afternoon. It jumped across the whole living room, which impressed me a lot. Till now, I still haven't quite understood if my later dream of leaving my small town and seeing the bigger world was inspired by my fish or not. Dear Diary, I didn't do well in this monthly exam. They are just a couple months away from the college entrance examination, but I'm still very confused about the future. The only green tree outside the window was sawn down by a neighbor today. I want to start a new life in a new city, instead of doing those endless homework in this room every single day. When I wrote these depressing and confusing words in my diary, I never thought about a couple months later I would receive the acceptance letter from my favorite college in Beijing. What I also didn't expect was that my brand new life would start from there. I joined the drama club in my college. We rehearsed a lot, no matter day or night. Our motto at that time was, never settle for something you think is not good enough. There was also one thing we liked to do, projecting the logo on the buildings after rehearsal or during the performance. We regarded this as a symbol of our spirit. My passion for live performance and experience design grew rapidly during that time. 5 years later, I was an intern in my favorite immersive theater called Sleep No More, and that experience had a great influence on my future path. I worked in a German perfume online company when I studied business management for my master's degree. However, that repetitive, monotonous work leaves me with little room for my creativity. So I was hesitating if that was the time I should give up everything I already had and pursue my initial passion for art. One day, my roommate read me a poem in French about chasing dreams, and that was the time I finally made up my mind. I decided to go to New York City to fight for my dreams. My roommate also invited me to appreciate his favorite jazz song that day. 2 years later, I composed my first song called Future Vision in a song design class in Parsons Design School, which is what you are hearing now. I came to New York City alone and prepared for my portfolio from zero within just 3 months. I didn't sleep a lot during that time. McDonald's takeout was my most frequent dinner. These pictures are from one of my work called Dream Collection. I used to dream a lot and also make those dreams come true a lot. Now I'm studying and preparing my thesis work in Parsons Design and Tech program. I know my story will keep developing, and this is definitely not the last page of my book.
Hi everyone, I'm Kenneth Chen from MFADT. I would like to walk you through my thesis project. This film illustrates infanticide due to gender bias and the miserable fate of women in China using non-literal imagery as the starting point for breaking the patriarchal clan and empowering women to seize back the right to matronymic surname passing in Chinese society. The patriarchal clan, as known as the Chinese king, plays an important role in Chinese culture and Chinese society throughout history. People who share the same surnames could trace back who their ancestors were and honor the sense of belonging. Therefore, the idea of Chinese king is bounded by surnames. Because only men could pass on the family name, women are unwanted and unwelcome to the family. Wealth and power have only been passed down to men since the beginning, which makes a huge negative impact on the social status of women. The patriarchal claim takes women as the reproduction mechanism by devaluing and dehumanizing them. In the possible future, this film will be projected on the wall of the ancestral hall, which is a temple that Chinese people gather and worship their male ancestors who share the same surnames, a place that women do not exist at all.
痛哉，中国有逆女之俗也。其残酷较黑种之杀人以计，红种之猎人以食。但犹过之，传绝由来，尽因在生计艰难，原因则在女质旷废，生发未造极真其耳，缠其鳖，防嫌其出人。学问艺术皆不得与男子同，平民遂以女子为好食类人之物，方生而致死之，其人可恶。其余亦可今矣。不明逆女者尚罕，然弃女则时有之。搂人女奸于府字，往往成夜崩及挂富家门环，或至市面图案，见者即出为倡捐扬言数元，给汝养者领去。再就邻近劝捐若千，做常年哺乳之资。领袖者1年看验一次，养成或为择偶，或即以配其子若孙。领袖者力不干预，若卖为帅妾，则得出而禁之。父母之于子也，产男则相合，产女则杀之。此具出父母之怀任，然男子受贺，女子杀之者，虑其后便计之常例也。吾有叔亲，家扰既应，但欲将及，便遣婚束守之。体有不安，窥窗以护。若生女者，折齿将去。母虽豪气，莫敢救之。世人不忍闻也。今因俗人偷薄，复用多美，因贫反复，论才所怜。因价破产，遂有被蒙之风。有逆女之俗，往往桀告；有恋纯风，往往出生一女，犹或继其存留。连产2胎，不肯容其长大，否离母腹，即作冤盘。为是提升，以登轨传。约计每年每因溺死女孩的则数起，多且数万。有客自宁波来，言其地有焚子女婴一事，在空地上积薪，置女婴其上，举火而焚之，始则呱呱啼，继则怒，久之皮骨俱焦，不复成人形矣。乃遂以石而投之江，继其魂魄之具，不敢复来也。
Hi, I'm Bai Chao. My work is a short video work about complicated male-female relationship behind the Chinese subculture Danmei. This subculture is produced and consumed by women, and is often seen as bad or not meaningful as it contains a lot of mature content. As a long-time Danmei reader and writer, my work aims to highlight the feminist empowerment inherent in this often criticized subculture. Can Danmei be a way for women to express their sexual desires? I don't know. What do you think?
我在煮书。我是一名20代的中国女性。我在用一个中国产的锅。我写下了一个我喜欢的男性躯体的模样。我写下了另一个。我加入了一些我喜欢的性情节。我让他们相爱了。他们相爱了。我煮了这本书。 我吃掉了这本书。
Thank you, Jackie, Kenneth, and Bai Chao. So we will now have Yo-Yo back on to give feedback and ask each of you one question in regards to your work. Yo-Yo?
Wow. There's so many questions I have. How about let's work backwards this time? So, Bai Chao. Danmei. This is like the first time I've heard about it. I like Googled it, I like read into it. Now I have some books that I need to get. There's a lot of questions I have, but I guess I'm thinking through kind of what you were talking about, like how there is this like rising feminist aspect to the subculture that is Danmei. And I'm also like thinking through like the format you chose of using like a cooking show for this performance, and just like the very like structured ways that you like went about cooking this book. Yeah, like I just have mainly the question is just like, yeah, like how are you envisioning yourself within this subculture in doing this as like a culinary performance? Yeah.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the beginning, like myself, like I have been reading Danmei work since like primary school, and a lot of people told me like it's not good, it's not good for you, it's not good for your study, blah 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 blah, and all those things. And of course, because as I said, it contains a lot of mature content, so I always hide myself from telling other people that I read Danmei. Like my parents, even though they're here today, they don't know I read them. So that's a starting point where I want to start to like research about this topic, like why, and because the main audience and the main writers or like producers of this subculture are mostly young women. And I was like, why are those young women want to read Danmei, and why we're hiding them, like hiding this habit from like everyone else? And after, so I have been doing this project from my major studio one, and it's been like 2 years now, and I read a lot of papers and like research, and all I found is like, because we are restricted in this patriarchal society, like it's kind of similar to, I think my topic is really related to Kenny's topic, where she's more exploring the like family part, and I'm exploring like as a young woman in the contemporary society, why couldn't I express my sexual desire? And all we can do is to impose our sexual desire into another male body just to keep us safe. Like the male body there is like because in Danmei there are two male bodies, there's no appearance of female body. So from that view, when we're reading it, we don't feel guilty. We don't feel the guilt that, oh, we're women and we're reading some like, you know, mature work. And yeah, so I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. I guess like when you were talking about how this is something that people don't often talk about or reveal, that like they enjoy reading Danmei, and like I feel like you creating this like cooking, like you're literally creating something for yourself to enjoy, and like you literally eat it at the end. And I wasn't expecting you to eat it at the end, to be honest. I was like, okay, she's gonna stop cooking now, but then you like ate it, and I was like, wow, like there's like something really, yeah, like a little bit unsettling about that, but then you were like so wholeheartedly eating it that it made me question, yeah, just like the desire and the length and the I guess just like the amount of desire and relishment that you have for this material is like really, really interesting. yeah, was very part of that performance, I feel like. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I love like like how you use like Chinese language within that as well. Just like the simplicity of that. Just like 我吃了素, like it's just like yes, you did. That happened.
While I was doing this, I sort of like, I was thinking I'm doing this more like in a manifesto style where like I declare everything for myself.
Oh, I see. Wow. I love that. Well, yeah, like I guess we can go to Kenneth's work. Specifically just talking through like the act of cooking as well, and like the act of like buttering this chicken, and like were the eggs already in the chicken, or was that just something you added like for yourself? I was like, does it come like that? Like, can I get a chicken like that? But yeah, that's not a real question. Mainly my real question is, yeah, like the intense gender bias that exists in Chinese society, right, is like, yeah, it's like everywhere, is always, it's kind of one of those things that has dictated like how women and like mothers and surnames have been passed down like only with the men, and like how that is seen as just like such an important part of like owning property, I guess, and like owning your family lineage, I guess. So I'm just thinking through like, even like in my background, like my Chinese name is Yo-Yo, and like that's my English name too. And like my brothers got English names and not just Chinese names, because my parents were like, oh, like the men in this family are going to like go out and do business, whereas the women would just like have Chinese names and be like married off. So even just thinking through, just like surnames themselves, and just thinking through like how the power of patriarchal societies have, like, how are you thinking through in terms of like this performance, like how this kind of like fights against that or seizes back power from that within this work?
Yeah, so I think from this project, I want to create some sort of women community, and I want my audience to be women. And I remember when I doing Thesis Studio 1, I also did the same topic, and I got challenge of my topic saying like, why aren't you change your audience to men? Then you can, let's say you persuade this husband to give up the right of surnaming and give them back to women. I was like, what the hell is that? Like, the world is so focused on men, and why should I like still place my audience to be men? I want to talk to women. And I think, sorry.
Don't cry.
Excuse me.
Yeah, take your time.
I think there should be a place that women could express themselves freely and not get challenged. So.
Yeah, totally. Just like the extent of which there is this oppressive structures that have been implemented for years and decades in China and also beyond. Like there's many ways in which I feel like women have been stripped from owning property, from being able to use their voices, from being able to even make performances like for our own audience, like that is always like regarded as like, oh, like you have to like please all audiences. Like we need to like please like all these male people like on this board and all this stuff. And like, there is like a lack of, like understanding, lack of, honestly, like women in power, honestly, like POC women in color, to be honest, that has yet to come to fruition, you know, and you making this work within the lens of our experiences, like really, really says a lot, and really, honestly, like captures a lot of these nuances that hasn't been shown before. So yeah, thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, and like, I still want to know more about like this fried chicken recipe you have. Like, is it like a family recipe? Like, but yeah, we can talk more. Did you want to share anything else?
I think I'm good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And we have the pop-up book piece. Oh my goodness. So you, like, how long have you been making this pop-up book? And is this something that chronicles different memories in your life? Because I remember like there's something even, like pre-college, like you were gonna go to like your dream college, you like intern at Sleep No More, you like decided to move out to New York, like you like chronicle all these things. So I guess, did you start making this like in Parsons, or did you have you already started making these things before that?
I mean, for the actually making process, just like one semester for the Thesis 2. And so, but for the whole planning, like what kind of stuff I should put in which pages and how to that subtly show those like connections between different experience, especially to put the past and futures together in the same frame. And also including those like physical elements and also the augmented elements together. And I think those kind of things I just prepare for maybe for more like longer time.
And is this something that you envision like other people can also interact with, or is this something that is like your own personal diary?
Yeah, so I also mentioned that for my target group, the biggest target audience, of course, myself, because I want to make as a self like reflection. Yeah, and also since during pandemic, actually I cannot reach to like a larger group of my user test to actually test this physical stuff. But yes, of course, I want to reach up to my audience, and I also want to inspire them to have their conversations with their subconsciousness, with their own past experience, and find out those like karma and have reconciliation between the cause and effect. And I hope this, like the whole process can help them to maybe ease some like confusion or trauma from the past, or maybe some to soothe some like anxiety for the future.
I love that. Yeah. I feel like there, especially in this moment, this like pandemic moment, of course, there's so much that is happening. And I feel like this time last year, like was like completely different time, you know, like there has been like a lot of moments where I'm just like, I just need to like write things down. Like, I just need to like commemorate these moments and remember these moments, because like they're also a part of, like you were saying, like a form of processing, like a form of understanding yourself, and like also like honoring yourself and honoring the things that have happened, like even in these very unprecedented, scary times. So I think with the pop-ups, especially, like you like had to like handcraft each one too. So yeah, like what was that pop-up process like? Something that you were already familiar with, or was that something that you also developed during this time?
No, I just watched like YouTube tutorials, like from zero to here.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I love that so much. Also, just like the deep YouTube tutorials that you get down, and like how suddenly you're like, oh yeah, I'm like a pop-up book artist now. Like, I love that. And yeah, like I saw in the chat a lot of folks from this class were also like, oh my God, I remember that thing we did. Like, so it was also kind of like a memory book for everyone too, which I thought was so nice.
I'm so glad that's also what I want to achieve. And I'm so like glad for all the feedback, critic, comments.
I love that. Yeah, I think like we can also talk a little bit about, yeah, maybe like your experiences making these pieces, because I always feel like that always kind of gets put to the side. Like, what was it kind of like developing this piece? I guess like, are you guys like able to use the facilities? I may probably not because everyone's like at home. Like, yeah, like what was the process for each of y'all in like creating this piece that I feel like for each of you is like very personal and also like a way of like processing something, which I also have experienced a lot in my work, which, you know, you're kind of creating these movements and these performances and these, yeah, artifacts kind of to also move through an experience and process an experience and be able to kind of honor these overlooked aspects of your life. Yeah, like what was that process like for you, Banchao?
Sorry, I zoomed out a little bit.
Wait, what'd you say?
I zoomed out a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
I'm so sorry.
No worries. I was just saying kind of just like, yeah, like the process of you making this piece, like, was this something that was like cathartic for you? Was it something that like was a way of processing something that you are going through? Like, yeah, like personal to, yeah, like micro to macro.
It's like cause I mentioned that like I start all this project with the question like why I'm reading this and why we are hiding this. So through like doing this project and doing a lot of revisions, it's really like a way to understand yourself more, like to understand why you are shaped in that way, like especially related to like a lot of characteristics of this subculture is related to gender issues and like why my gender is shaped in that way and why I'm thinking in that way. And then like it helped me to digger like a lot of deeper problems and especially related to like a lot of gender issue currently exist in China. And through this process, I really understand like more about how those thinking had been formed and circulated, and still I can see them there like every day in my daily life, and really help me to start to more to think about all those gender inequality. And currently I'm working on like a series of workshops and other events in here because I'm taking I'm in Tsinghua right now, like doing like a this international exchange thing. And so I'm organizing a series like of events trying to invoke our attention to put more attention to those current issues. So this is like and through doing all those things, I found that I find something I need to fight for, and I shall always continue to fight for. So it's really grateful for me for, you know, working on this project.
Yes. Wow, I love that so much. Yeah, what about you, Kenneth?
I think through the journey, I found myself being more honest about what is happening in my life and what is happening in others' life. And especially when I have a group of women community with my sisters a lot in Clubhouse. We discuss feminist topic together basically every week, and we found ourselves have so many common experience along our journey through because we all grew up in China, and we are seeing the infanticide. There's like 70 million female babies was killed or abandoned in total, and people are still not facing the truth. And I think we could do better. We could do better to admit the truth and see what is happening, and to help each other, especially women, to help women. I think we could do a lot better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And do you want to close us out? Jiaqi?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think for my intention, I just want to create very like touching experience. And I do believe that storytelling is a really powerful tool. And I, in my project, I just try to break the boundary of the method or the media of storytelling. As you can see, I try to use those physical pop-up books, and we add some like AR technology. So maybe in the future, I would love to try to explore more possibilities with those like a new like technology like AR, VR, and add it on those like physical stuff, objects. And I think this path has a lot of more potentials and possibilities. And yes, I do want to explore more on the AR storytelling direction.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you all so much for sharing pieces of yourselves to the world. It is a gift. It is an honor to be here. And I'm just really thankful that y'all were like, come through and check out our projects. Yeah, please hang out with me. I would love that. If you're in New York, hit me up. And congratulations to everyone. I am astonished and humbled, and I'm very, very excited for y'all to complete this journey that you started. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Yo-Yo, and thank you for those questions and for the students for your vulnerability and your responses. So unfortunately, this marks the end of our amazing day one. We want to congratulate today's student presenters for showing their inspiring and stimulating work. We want to extend our immense gratitude to our two guest artists, Everest Pipkin and Yo-Yo Lin, for being here today to review our work. And lastly, we want to thank all of you in the audience for joining us today. The next 2 days will feature student presentations and our digital gallery. Be sure to join us from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. tomorrow and Tuesday. We are honored to have Alexandrina Agloro and Benedetta Piantella tomorrow, and Juan Pablo Garcia Sosa, Anthony Dunn, and Fiona Raby for day 3. As a reminder, this live event is one part of Parallel, a multidimensional digital space hosted by the 2021 graduating classes of Parsons BFA and MFA Design and Technology program. You can head over to parsons.edu/DT to view the entirety of all our peers' thesis work. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for day 2. Bye, everyone.